Comes from the country that I think can lay claim to having developed the concept of parliamentary democracy. You know, there are some on the Isle of Man and in Iceland who'll say they've been doing it for longer, but actually it really was during the 13th century and from Magna Carta and onwards that we were a country that developed the idea of parliamentary democracy and indeed sold that concept to much of the rest of the world. And of course, the reason that parliamentary democracy works is because however unhappy you are with the government of the day, however bad you think their policies are, you get the opportunity once every 4 or 5 years to say you're a rotten lot of so-and-sos. We're going to get rid of you and replace you with somebody else. And the reason that works is because people don't turn to violence. People accept they've got a rotten government, but urge themselves and their friends to change it next time round. It is a system of freedom, it is a system of self-determination, it is a system of liberty. It is one that previous generations in my country thought was so important, not just for us, but for Belgium, for Poland, and for other countries, that twice in the 20th century, at massive sacrifice, we fought world wars to defend that very principle, that we and the rest of Europe should be free, liberal, independent democracies. And now, in less than the span of a lifetime, our career politicians in Britain have been happy to give away that democracy to a set of institutions based in Brussels and Luxembourg and Strasbourg, a set of institutions that treat parliamentary democracy, who in fact treat the very concept of democracy itself with total and utter contempt. And that is why I, after 20 years of working in business, decided that I had to get involved in politics because I want democracy and I want my country back from the European Union. You know, I've worked for French companies and I love Europe. Europe is a fantastic continent. In some ways, it's the greatest continent on the planet because of its diversity, because of its different languages, because of its different peoples and its different cheeses and its different wines and whatever else it may be. And I would say, vive la différence, and let's fight and let's work. And I intend to do this, and I want all the Eurosceptic groups across the European time zone to do this. Let's fight and campaign for a positive alternative vision. Let us have a Europe of sovereign democratic nation states that trade together, that cooperate together, that have mutual respect for each other, that have reciprocal deals with each other, but not a political union which nobody on this continent wants. But actually, ever closer union. As we now know, it was there from the very beginning, but they're using the crisis in the euro. It's called the beneficial crisis in Brussels. It's a phenomenon amongst the bureaucrats, the Leon Britons of this world, that if there is a crisis, you use it to integrate Europe yet more deeply. And they're doing it to a level that I think is fanatical and dangerous, because they're not asking the people in the member states whether they want to give up the ability to set their own budgets and govern their own countries. And that's why you're seeing violence and political extremism on the streets of those Mediterranean countries. If you take away from people their ability to determine their own futures, they will react violently against it. This is now a very dangerous, bad political project in my view.
A little bit of accuracy might help. I've always been a politician, and the appointment as a commissioner as a political appointment and not a bureaucratic one.
Thank you.
Well, we weren't elected.
I think that point can't be allowed to go completely unchallenged. It is extraordinary that we concentrate executive and legislative power with 27 commissioners who are invulnerable to public opinion and immune to the ballot box. So, a year ago, in Italy and in Greece, we saw Brussels-backed coups where elected prime ministers were toppled and replaced by bureaucrats who'd never sought office in their life, who headed what were called national governments, but were in fact governments put together for the sole purpose of imposing an agenda which would have been rejected by their people in a general election. There was not one elected politician in Mario Monti's cabinet, not one. He appointed himself finance minister as well as prime minister,
but it
giving
was
a
a
whole
government
new
of technocrats.
meaning to the phrase
it was a
the full
government of
Monty.
technocrats.
One thing that you two.
But the fundamental problem, the real issue at hand tonight, is that there is less democracy in this country because of the European Union. Because, ladies and gentlemen, however you vote at the next general election, 60% of our laws, and some say higher, is made on the basis of European agreements where the Maltese proportionately outvote us 15-1. Whoever you vote for matters less than whoever somebody in Malta votes for about the laws of our country. And if you're unsatisfied with that, if you want it changed, I can't give you any redress because the United Kingdom Parliament, the most ancient democratic parliament in the world, has been made powerless. That is the threat to democracy. It is here, but it is on the continent as well. It is a frightening spectre. The best way to deal with it is to deal with our relationship with the European Union, to put our own democracy first and foremost, and hope that others follow.
We need Britain. Personally, I don't think that Britain needs the European Union, but that's a matter of conviction. Others may have a different feeling on that thing. Personally, I don't think that Britain needs the European Union.